Mm.
Okay, so the main idea behind this move is to bring this knight to f1 so that it can be routed to the g3 square, which will be a very good outpost for this knight. And after this, a4. And here after that, Gukesh immediately brings his bishop to b5, attacking this a4 pawn. And after this, here Caruana develops his bishop to d7. And suppose if white captured this a4 pawn, now in this position, black can actually sacrifice his rook by rook takes a4. But what's the point of that move? Here white can simply capture this, but after that, black can give a discover attack by playing knight to b4. And since this knight is also threatening to fork these rooks, so that's why white has no other choice to bring back his queen to d1. And after that, knight takes d3, attacking this rook as well as targeting this f2 pawn, which is very important. So that's why rook to f1. But what's the next move black can play? Okay, so as you can see here, white can push this pawn to b4, which attacks this bishop. So that's why here the best move is to bring back this bishop so that it can maintain the pressure towards this f2 pawn. And now suppose if he tries to attack this knight, then simply knight to f4. And now here consider yourself as white, since you can see that this dark square bishop is still undeveloped, so most of you will simply go for knight to c4. And now here simply knight to h5, which also opens the option for black to push f5. And suppose if white captured on f4, simply knight takes f4. And here we all know that black is a material down, but currently look at this position. Black has this strong knight which is immovable, and this is strong queen which can anytime enter into the game. And look at these powerful bishops, and by this clearly you can see that black will be better. Okay, so after seeing this all complications, after bishop to d7, here Gukesh decides to bring his knight to f1 so that he can reroute it to g3 square.
Mm.
And this is a mistake. This is a mistake by Gukesh. Instead, he must consider capturing this pawn on f5. And suppose if knight takes f5, takes, and now white can go for queen to d3, attacking this rook. And if black brings his suppose rook to if black brings his queen to f6, which defends this rook as well as attack this f file. So now bishop to e3, kindly defending this f2 square. And if takes, simply knight takes d4, attacking this rook. And now black can go for rook to h5. And now here white can bring his another piece into the game. And suppose if knight to e5, he tries to attack this queen, simply queen to e2, attacking this rook again. And suppose if black brings his queen to g6, and you can see black is threatening to take on h3, taking benefit of this pin. But white can easily tackle this by pushing f4. This and this two things. The first one is this is defending this g2 pawn by white is defending this, and secondly white is also attacking this knight, and clearly you can see that white will be better. Okay, so in the actual game, after queen to d3, maybe he moves his king to h8 so that he can avoid this check. But in my opinion, knight to c6 might be the better option, which creates some pressure over this d4 pawn. And here it's better for white to attack this knight by playing b4, because this knight is in very good outpost. And that's a mistake, because in the next move black is going to push this pawn, and after this knight moves, black can go for knight to d4 fork. So that's why bishop to c3 might be the better option for white, so that he can easily stop this move knight to d4. And another mistake by white, because now black is going to push g4, and by this exchange he is going to open this g file. Here, instead of capturing this, the better option for white is to capture this knight. This is because after takes, now knight to h2, and you can see black can stop this white can stop this push for some time. Okay, so in the actual game, after bishop to c3, and yeah, after this, as you can see, Fabi decides to double his rook, which attacks this g2 pawn. But instead, here Fabi can also consider this move queen to h5, and in the next move black is going to sack this rook so that he can bring his another rook to g8. and by this white will get checkmated in few moves. Okay, so let me show you a sample. Suppose if white plays any other move, like suppose if he decides to capture this on simply rook takes g2 check, and after king takes g2, rook to g8 check, king to f1, queen to h1 check, knight to g1, and finally queen takes g1 checkmate. Okay, so that's why after queen to h5, the best move for white is to play knight to h2, simply attacking this knight. But now comes this beautiful move by black, which is f3, which attacks this rook, and here black is also trying to destroy this pawn structure. And suppose if knight takes g4, and here you cannot capture this rook due to knight to f6 fork, so that's why you have to capture this knight first. And and after this you can see that black is threatening this mate, so to stop this g3, but simply queen to h3, and yeah, this is over for white. Okay, so in the actual game, after rook at a goes to g8, and now to stop knight f6, the best move will be rook to g6. But in this position, black defends this by bishop to d8. And that's a mistake, because now Gukesh sacrificed his rook by rook takes d8. And obviously you can't capture this rook by the rook, because then white will capture this rook. So that's why knight takes d8. And now it's better for white to bring this queen to c3 so that he can support this bishop, but instead he decides to take on a4, and now you can see black can capture this active knight. But instead he also made a mistake by knight to g5. And as you can see in the next move, white is going to sack this queen with the idea of knight to f6, and white will gain back his queen with the piece up. So that's why knight to e5. And now it's better for white to continue with the e5 so that he can guard this bishop as well as he can create this passer. But instead he goes for queen to c3, and which is a mistake. This is because now black can go for f3, and obviously you can't capture this due to knight to d4 fork. So and yeah, so due to this move, so that's why after this move, rook to f3, and now after this black can bring his queen to e6, and after takes, simply queen takes e4 check, queen to e3, and after this queen to c2, and you can see white is lost. So yeah, so that's why but instead of playing this move h5, here black goes for this move, which is h5. But defending this check by the knight might be the better option, because by this, white can continue to push this e-pawn. And yeah, here white can easily defend this knight by his rook, but instead he decides to place his king to e4, which first of all looks good, but now here black can go for knight to d4, sacrificing this knight so that he can deflect this king. And yeah, although white is still winning, but it is not easy to hold this position. Okay, so after king to e4, he didn't go for this move. Here he pushed h4. And in this position, the final move by Gukesh is king to c6. And as you can see, no one can stop these pawns. So that's why here Fabiano Caruana resigned. This is your host Bison signing off. Bye bye.